I raised a daughter who wasn't mine, then found out the truth. My wife ran off with her affair partner, so I let karma come down on them. I'm a 42-year-old man, and I never thought I'd be sharing a story like this, but here I am. My entire world has been turned upside down, and I'm struggling to make sense of it all. I've been married to my wife Paige, who's 40, for 17 years, and we have a daughter, Emily, who's 15, whom I've raised since birth. At least that's what I thought. Paige and I met during our sophomore year of college. We were both studying business at State University, and we first crossed paths in an economics lecture. I remember being struck by her confident demeanor and quick wit. She had this way of challenging the professor's points that was both impressive and a little intimidating. After class, I mustered up the courage to introduce myself, and we ended up grabbing coffee. That coffee date turned into study sessions, which turned into real dates. We bonded over our shared ambition and drive. Both of us came from working-class backgrounds and were determined to make something of ourselves. Paige's parents owned a small diner in her hometown, and she'd grown up watching them work long hours to make ends meet. My dad was a factory worker, and my mom was a nurse. We both knew the value of hard work and were committed to building a better life. As we dated through college, our relationship deepened. We pushed each other academically and dreamed about our future together. After graduation, we both landed entry-level positions at competing firms in the city. It was a challenging time, balancing our new careers with our relationship, but we made it work. We'd meet for quick lunches during the week and spend weekends exploring the city or binge-watching TV shows in my tiny studio apartment. 2 years after graduation, I proposed. I'd been saving up for months to buy the ring, skipping nights out with coworkers and brown-bagging my lunch. The proposal wasn't anything flashy. I took her to the park where we had our first real date and got down on one knee by the pond. Paige cried happy tears and said yes immediately. We got married a year later in a small ceremony with close family and friends. It wasn't the big wedding Paige had initially wanted, but we decided to prioritize saving for a house instead. The first few years of marriage were good. We both continued to advance in our careers, eventually moving into management positions. We bought our first home, a fixer-upper that we spent weekends renovating together. When Emily was born, it was the happiest day of my life. I remember holding her for the first time, feeling this overwhelming sense of love and protection. I promised myself I'd be the best father I could be. I took 2 weeks off work to help Paige adjust to motherhood, and those early days were a blur of diaper changes, midnight feedings, and pure joy. As Emily grew, I threw myself into fatherhood. I was there for her first steps, her first words, her first day of school. I coached her soccer team when she was 7, even though I knew next to nothing about soccer. I spent hours watching YouTube videos to learn the basics. When she developed an interest in art, I signed us up for a parent-child painting class at the community center. Our family life wasn't perfect, but I thought we were happy. Paige and I both worked hard, but we always made time for family dinners and weekend activities. We had our share of arguments, usually about mundane things like household chores or scheduling conflicts, but we always worked through them, or so I thought. Emily was doing well in school, had a good group of friends, and seemed content. She was going through typical teenage stuff, mood swings, pushing boundaries, spending more time on her phone than with us, but nothing out of the ordinary. I never suspected anything was amiss in our family dynamic. Last week, everything changed. I was cleaning out our home office, a task I'd been putting off for months. Paige had been bugging me to organize the space so we could set up a proper workstation for Emily's virtual classes. As I was sorting through old files and paperwork, I came across an old shoebox hidden in the back of a drawer. The box looked vaguely familiar, and I assumed it contained old receipts or maybe some of Paige's college mementos. But when I opened it, I found a stack of letters and photos that made my blood run cold. They were from a man named Mark, and the contents made it clear that he and Paige had been having an affair for years. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I read through the letters, each one feeling like a punch to the gut. Mark wrote about their secret meetings, their plans for the future, and how much he loved Paige. There were photos of them together, looking happy and in love. But what hit me hardest was a letter where he mentioned a paternity test. He wrote about how relieved he was that Emily wasn't his, as it would have complicated things with his wife. The earliest letter was dated just before Emily was born, which meant this affair had been going on for at least 15 years, possibly longer. I sat there for hours trying to process what I discovered. My mind was racing with questions and doubts. Had our entire marriage been a lie? Was Emily really my daughter? How could Paige have done this to us? I thought back to all the times Paige had to work late or went on girls' trips. There were weekends when she'd go to professional development seminars out of town. Had those all been lies? How many of our memories were tainted by this deception? When Paige got home that evening, I confronted her with the letters. At first, she tried to deny it, claiming they were old letters from an ex-boyfriend. But when she realized I'd seen everything, including recent dates and the mention of Emily, her demeanor changed completely. She became defensive and angry, lashing out at me. Paige shouted, "Fine, you want the truth? I never loved you. I've been in love with Mark for years. He's successful, charming, and everything you're not. I only stayed with you because he's married and couldn't leave his wife." I was stunned. This wasn't the woman I thought I'd married. The Paige I knew was kind and compassionate, not this cruel, angry person standing in front of me. "What about Emily?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Paige's face hardened. "She's not yours. I had a fling with someone else just before we got married. I thought it was yours when I found out I was pregnant, but I had a paternity test done in secret. I never told you because I knew you'd leave, and I needed the stability." I felt like my world was crumbling around me. The daughter I'd raised and loved for 15 years wasn't mine biologically. The wife I thought I knew had been living a double life. I asked Paige to leave, to go to Mark if that's what she really wanted. To my shock, she agreed without hesitation. She started packing her things, and I heard her talking to Emily, explaining the situation. I expected Emily to be devastated, but when they came downstairs, Emily was glaring at me. "How could you kick Mom out?" she yelled. "You're not even my real dad." I tried to explain, to tell her that biology didn't matter, that I loved her no matter what, but she wouldn't listen. She packed a bag and left with Paige, saying she wanted to meet her real family. Now I'm sitting in an empty house, trying to make sense of my life. Everything I thought I knew has been a lie. The photos on the walls mock me, smiling faces from family vacations, Emily's school pictures, our wedding photo. How much of it was real? I don't know what to do next or how to move forward. I'm angry, hurt, and feel completely lost. The future I thought I had has vanished, replaced by this nightmare of betrayal and uncertainty. Has anyone else been through something like this? How do you rebuild your life when everything you thought was real turns out to be false? After Paige and Emily left, I spent the first week in a daze. I barely ate or slept, just trying to wrap my head around the enormity of the betrayal. I kept replaying memories in my mind, wondering how I could have been so blind. I remembered all the times Paige had to work late or went on girls' trips. How could I have been so naive? I decided to take some time off work to sort things out. My boss, Jim, was understanding when I explained the situation, and I'm grateful for that. Jim and I have worked together for over a decade, and he's been more of a mentor than just a boss. When I told him what happened, he shared that he'd gone through a difficult divorce years ago and offered his support. It meant a lot to have someone in my corner. During my time off, I spent a lot of time going through old photos and videos, looking at my life with new eyes. It was painful, but I felt like I needed to do it to understand what had happened. I found myself focusing on the little details, the way Paige's smile seemed forced in some photos, the times Emily looked more like her Uncle Mark than me. It was like seeing our entire family history through a warped lens. About 2 weeks after they left, I got a call from Paige. She was hysterical, crying and begging to come home. It turns out that when she went to Mark with the news that she'd left me, he didn't react the way she expected. Instead of welcoming her with open arms, he blocked her number and apparently left for a long vacation out of the country. Paige sobbed on the phone, telling me how sorry she was and how she'd made a huge mistake. She said she realized how much she loved me and our life together. But all I felt was anger and disgust. I told her in no uncertain terms that there was no coming back from this betrayal. I hung up on her mid-apology. Emily called a few days later. She was calmer than Paige, but still upset. She asked if she could come home, saying she missed her room and her friends. I felt a mix of emotions hearing her voice. Part of me wanted to welcome her back with open arms, but another part felt hurt by how quickly she had dismissed our relationship. I told Emily that I loved her and always would, but that I needed some time. I explained that her words and actions had hurt me deeply, and that we couldn't just pretend nothing had happened. She got angry again, accusing me of abandoning her. It was a difficult conversation, and it ended with her hanging up on me. In the meantime, I've been trying to take care of myself. I joined a gym and have been working out regularly. It helps me sleep better and gives me something to focus on. The physical exertion helps quiet my mind, if only for a little while. I've also been spending more time with friends, people who knew nothing about the affair and have been supportive. My friend Mike, who I've known since high school, has been particularly helpful. He's been coming over a few times a week, sometimes just to watch a game or share a beer, other times to help me with projects around the house. Last weekend, we repainted the living room, a task Paige and I had been putting off for years. It felt good to make a change, to reclaim the space as my own. I've been in contact with a lawyer to start divorce proceedings. It's not something I ever thought I'd be doing, but I know it's necessary. The lawyer advised me to get a paternity test to confirm Emily's parentage, as it could affect things like child support. The idea makes me uncomfortable, but I know it's important from a legal standpoint. One unexpected development has been reconnecting with my older brother, Jack. We had a falling out years ago over a family business dispute and hadn't spoken much since. When he heard about what happened, he reached out. We've been talking regularly, and his support has meant a lot to me. Jack reminded me of something from our childhood that I'd almost forgotten. Our father had cheated on our mother when we were young, and it tore the family apart for a while. I was only about 10 at the time, but I remember the tension in the house, the whispered arguments, and the sadness in my mother's eyes. Dad moved out for a while, and I remember feeling confused and angry, not understanding why he had left us. Eventually, our parents worked things out, but it took years for the trust to be rebuilt. I remember overhearing Mom telling a friend that she stayed for us kids, that she wanted us to have a stable home. Now I find myself wondering if that was the right decision. Did staying together really benefit us, or did it just prolong the inevitable? I find myself thinking about that a lot now. I remember how it felt as a child, caught in the middle of adult problems. I worry about how all of this will affect Emily in the long run. Despite everything, I still care about her well-being. I wonder if I'm doing the right thing by not immediately welcoming her back, or if I'm just perpetuating the cycle of hurt. Paige has tried to contact me several more times, alternating between apologies and anger. I've blocked her number and instructed my lawyer to handle all communication. It's hard, but I know it's necessary for my own mental health. Each time I see her name pop up on my phone, it's like ripping open the wound all over again. As for Emily, I'm still unsure how to proceed. I know she's not biologically mine, but I've raised her for 15 years. Those feelings don't just disappear overnight. I remember teaching her to ride a bike, helping her with her science fair projects, comforting her after her first heartbreak. How do I reconcile those memories with the knowledge that she's not my biological child? At the same time, I'm hurt by how quickly she seemed to discard our relationship. I understand that she's a teenager and that this situation is confusing and painful for her too, but her words cut deep. I'm considering reaching out to a family therapist for advice on how to handle this situation. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days are better than others. I'm trying to focus on the future, on rebuilding my life, but it's hard not to dwell on the past, on all the years I was living a lie. If anyone has been through something similar, I'd appreciate any advice on how to move forward. Things have continued to evolve, and while I can't say everything is better, I at least feel like I'm on a path forward. The divorce proceedings are underway. It's been a messy process, with Paige fighting me every step of the way. She's trying to claim that she's entitled to half of everything, despite her infidelity. My lawyer assures me that we have a strong case, especially given the evidence of her long-term affair. Still, it's been emotionally draining to hash out the details of our life together in such a clinical, adversarial way. The paternity test results came back, confirming what Paige had told me. I'm not Emily's biological father. It was a hard pill to swallow, even though I'd known it was likely true. Seeing it in black and white made it feel final in a way it hadn't before. I spent a whole day just staring at that piece of paper, trying to reconcile it with the 15 years of memories I have of raising Emily. Emily has been staying with Paige at her parents' house. She's called a few times, and our conversations have been tense. She's angry that I'm going through with the divorce and blames me for breaking up the family. I've tried to explain that it was Paige's actions that led to this, but she doesn't want to hear it. It's painful to hear the resentment in her voice, to feel the distance growing between us. Last week, Emily had a dance recital. It was an event we'd been planning for months before everything fell apart. I'd always attended her performances, usually sitting in the front row with a bouquet of flowers and my camera ready. This time, I watched from the back of the auditorium, slipping out before the end to avoid a confrontation with Paige. Seeing Emily on stage, graceful and confident, made my heart ache. I'm proud of her, but I don't know how to express that in our current situation. I've started seeing a therapist to help me work through my feelings. It's been helpful to have someone to talk to who can offer an outside perspective. We've been working on strategies for dealing with my anger and hurt, and on setting boundaries with Paige and Emily. It's a slow process, but I think it's necessary for my mental health. One positive development has been my relationship with my brother Jack. We've been spending a lot of time together, and it's been great to have his support. He's even offered to let me stay with him for a while if I need a change of scenery. Last weekend, we went fishing at the lake where our dad used to take us as kids. It was nice to reconnect with those happier childhood memories and to feel like I still have family I can count on. I've also thrown myself into work and my hobbies. I've taken up photography again, something I used to love but had let fall by the wayside over the years. It's been therapeutic to get out in nature and focus on capturing beautiful images. I'm even considering entering some of my photos in a local art show. It feels good to have a creative outlet, something that's just for me. Paige continues to alternate between trying to reconcile and lashing out at me. Last week, she showed up at my workplace causing a scene. I had to have security escort her out. It was embarrassing and stressful, but my coworkers have been understanding. Jim, my boss, even offered to let me work from home for a while if I needed to. I appreciate the offer, but I think the routine of going to the office has been helping me maintain some sense of normalcy. As for the future, I'm still taking it one day at a time. I know I have a long road ahead of me, but I'm committed to moving forward. I'm not sure what my relationship with Emily will look like going forward, but I hope that with time, we can find a way to connect again. I've been thinking about writing her a letter, explaining my feelings and my perspective on everything that's happened. I'm not sure if I'll send it, but just getting my thoughts down on paper might be helpful. The house feels empty without Paige and Emily, but I'm slowly adjusting to living alone. I've been redecorating a bit, trying to make the space feel more like my own. I took down most of the family photos, storing them in boxes in the attic. I'm not ready to get rid of them completely, but seeing them every day was too painful. Instead, I've hung some of my own photography and a few abstract prints I found at a local art fair. I've also been reconnecting with old friends and trying to expand my social circle. I joined a local hiking group and have been going on weekend treks. It's been good to meet new people who don't know about my situation, to have conversations that don't revolve around the divorce or Emily. Last week, I even went on a casual dinner date with a woman I met through the hiking group. It wasn't anything serious, but it was nice to feel like I could potentially move on someday. Work has been a welcome distraction. I've taken on a new project that's challenging but exciting. It's given me something to focus on besides my personal problems. My team has been supportive, picking up slack when I need to step away for legal meetings or therapy appointments. Paige's parents reached out to me recently. They apologized for Paige's behavior and expressed their shock at learning about the affair. They assured me that they still consider me family and want to maintain a relationship, regardless of what happens with the divorce. It was a touching gesture, but it also brought up complicated feelings. I'm not sure how to navigate that relationship moving forward, especially given the situation with Emily. As for Paige, her attempts to contact me have become less frequent. I think she's finally starting to accept that there's no going back. My lawyer informed me that she's hired her own attorney, so at least now all communication is going through proper channels. It's a small relief, but it helps. I still have moments of anger and sadness. Sometimes I'll come across something that reminds me of our life together. A book Paige gave me, Emily's old toy tucked away in a closet, and it hits me all over again. But those moments are becoming less frequent and less intense. I'm learning to sit with the feelings, acknowledge them, and then let them pass. For now, I'm focusing on healing and rebuilding my life. It's not easy, and there are days when it feels impossible, but I'm determined to come out stronger on the other side of this ordeal. I'm rediscovering who I am as an individual, not just as a husband and father. It's a painful process, but I'm hopeful that eventually I'll find a new sense of peace and purpose.